Factory Town just came onto early access lately, and developers kind of gave me a key to check it out. And despite still having months of EA left to go, what we have here is a really strong foundation, no pun intended, for a logistics style game. So for fans of Factorio, Infinite Factory, there's a few other ones as well, you should be right at home here. Your mission is to take a procedurally generated piece of land and build a village and automation factory of your wildest dreams. And to do so, it's going to be all about making some basic progress. Now, the rules are very simple. You essentially have a few types of buildings. Villagers, which you saw in like the bottom right hand corner of the screen there, will take in various resources, food, goods, medicine, stuff like that. They will provide you with coins as well as happiness, which are used to not only improve production, but also gate your evolution. You have buildings that will take in resources, such as this workshop that I'm building right here, and will construct something out of them. In order to move resources around, you must either set up an automation chain, which you'll see in a few minutes, or have workers, like you're seeing those lovely guys moving around down there, moving goods to the food market. But resources themselves are basically tied either to the overworld production, that's when I construct buildings or have my own pool, that's what you see in the upper left hand corner, or an individual basis. That is where you must move a resource or a finished good to the next step in the production. So right here I'm setting up this worker here to cut wood. The wood is going to be taken and turned into planks, and then the planks will be taken and turned into wooden wheels. All the while, there are no external or pressures coming in to wreck things. At the moment, there are no enemies, no weather effects. People are just simply tools for you to use, I guess, in a manner of speaking. Your homes, even though there is a happiness requirement or a happiness rating, does not impact anything. You are never going to get in a position in Factory Town where you're going to enter a downward spiral. And that is pretty good in of itself. So right now we're setting up for basically the first step in improving our production, that is getting wagons. And I gotta say, while you're watching the footage here, the tutorial in the game does a pretty good job of setting you up for the foundation of how the game plays out. It takes, once you know what you're doing and you're not confused by the UI, maybe like 20 to 25 minutes to go through it, and then the rest is up to you. The game also allows you to create your own maps, as well as random or procedurally generate new ones. But moving forward, you're going to see your first step in automation right here using basic chutes. How it works is you're going to use gravity to send resources down to either a storage or resource producer or consuming structure. So this is basically a way of making it a lot quicker to gather the grain that will then go to our mill, which in turn will create flour. And what the game does as a very interesting form of progression is that the needs of the various people, the various resources that you need have tiers to them. The higher the tier, essentially the more it satisfies that need, so they need less of it, and it gives you more rewards for when they quote-unquote consume it. So what I just did in terms of setting up that basic production line is just the start. We're going to fast forward in about another 20 or so seconds, and you're going to see kind of, I wouldn't say endgame, but a little bit where the depth or the extent of the complexity goes. But before we do that, I do want to point out very quickly that right now the game does not have a quote-unquote endgame. There is no spaceship for you to build, no grand monument, and the developer is looking at adding that in. Now, one thing that you're not going to see in this video is high-end or late-game automation. That involves using conveyor belts and even getting steam and magic power to kind of enhance your buildings. I didn't get that far into the game during this demonstration. But with that said, we're going to do a quick word to our Patreon supporters, and I'm going to show you kind of where things end up, or where they start to end up in terms of automation in Factory Town. And now for a quick thank you to our Patreon backers. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, you'll find our Discord channel linked down below. Alright, we are much further in than we were a few seconds ago, and this was kind of near the end of the play that I was doing off recording. Automation at its basic level is now starting to show up. As you can see on the right hand side of the screen there with that farm. How the farm and a lot of the advanced structures work is that it will automatically gather and send out resources from wherever it is. So instead of having workers coming to pick things up and move them along, it just immediately takes the good, puts it on the chute or the conveyor belt and sends it along the way, thereby massively speeding things up. And what that's doing is allowing me to get these goods produced a lot quicker. You can see that wagon in the bottom of the screen taking the food over and going from there. Right here, what I'm trying to do is build this out as a stone bridge, as wagons are a lot faster on stone than they are on wood. As you get further into Factory Town, another major point of progression is research, and you build a school in order to start constructing or unlocking new tech. Now here's another bit of assembly line as I'm trying to build a kitchen to get basically tier 3 food to my people. Because bread is the evolved form of grain apparently, and then sandwiches are the ultimate form of food in this world. Or at least the ultimate form of cooked goods at the moment. But as you're seeing here with the footage, you can start to see how, no pun intended, the gears are beginning to turn in terms of automation, using chutes at the basic level, and then growing into conveyor belts. There's even mine cars, possibly trains, and again, there's also the whole magic and steam power to further augment construction. So the game has a very strong foundation, and that's great, but other than a few quality of life issues when it comes to the UI, such as easily figuring out how many resources I have, what's being generated versus what's being consumed, and things like that, the one, I wouldn't say big issue, but nagging problem that I have with Factory Town right now is that I'm not seeing the next step. And what I mean by that is, one of the best parts of Factorio is that there's always that next level of understanding how things work. You get a new part piece, you then learn about it, you master it, and then you begin to come up with creative ways of using it. That's where that emergent gameplay or emergent behavior comes from, and why it has become such a popular example of this genre. The problem with Factory Town at the moment is that there doesn't seem to be anything beyond mastery at the moment. It is it's a far simpler design than a Factorio and other high-level logistics-related games, and that in of itself is not a bad thing. I could see this being like the perfect introduction to this kind of design for new players, or you want to introduce like your children to the genre. And again, keep in mind, Factorio has been in early access and beta since the dawn of civilization, so they kind of have a head start here. But we're going to begin to wrap things up here because, as always, with this game being in early access, what you see may not represent the current version of the game. I believe the developer is aiming for about 6 months at the moment in terms of early access, and what I'm seeing here, again with not a pun intended, is a really strong foundation. The tutorial makes sense, the systems are pretty much well explained, and all it needs now, I think, is to decide how far the developer wants to go. Do they want to aim for more of the hardcore crowd with Factorio and all the interesting dynamics and emergent behavior that we see? Or does it want to keep things more on the streamlined and straightforward aspect, making it more, again, I don't want to use the term casual because I think that may be viewed negatively, but more of an easier experience for players to get into? But we'll be checking this game out for sure as it continues to develop, and I'm definitely excited to see where they go with it. But with that said, we're going to end things here. for this video spotlight. If you'd like me to tackle your game in the future, doesn't have to be logistics related or not, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Check back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. And once again, this has been Factory Town. Until our next spotlight, have a great night. If you're looking for a book on design, my first title, 20 Essential Games to Study, is out now. It is available where most books are sold, and it comes in paper, hardcover, or digital copies. This is the perfect book for anyone interested in learning about game design, whether you are a student, enthusiast, or just a fan. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel linked down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.